Makes it. Wow, we're coming quiet all of a sudden. Interesting. And we're back on The Young Turks. Jimmy Dore, and I'm no longer on vacation. I was getting so many tweets like, did you get fired? Why aren't you there? You're never on anymore. I'm like, I took a vacation. For what?
How many days off did you have?
I was gone for a long time.
How many?
A week and a Friday.
No, 8 days? You're saying 8 days you were gone? No kidding!
I'm a greedy asshole, basically. But
didn't seem that long.
Really? You had more of the spotlight. Or Jordan.
Thank you. That's right. Well, we got another guy with a beard.
That's the same thing, basically.
We're calling him Hair Jordan now.
I saw that, actually. I was watching.
He didn't seem to mind it.
No.
So maybe we have to switch it. Find something that bugs him.
Yeah, didn't piss him off. But we are here. Now, obviously, there was no coverage over the weekend for Bernie's big weekend. We're going to turn to that in just a second. We apologize.
I wanted to be here. It was for what? I wanted to be here.
I was on vacation.
He was on vacation. It was that Jen Juger.
Yeah, he had typhoid or something. But we do have a lot of big news. We not only have the results for Bernie, we have Trump in Mexico.
Wow!
Form. Another terrorist bombing, because this is the world that we live in. And South Carolina is on its way to passing a bill that is one of the most un-Christian things I've ever seen a particularly Christian state ever pass. We're going to get to that at the end. Why don't we jump right into the Bernie Sanders stuff? Because I have a feeling that you're going to be enthusiastic about it.
I have something to say about it. Go ahead.
Okay. Bernie Sanders had a pretty good weekend, admittedly, since he crushed Hillary Clinton in all three of the caucuses that went on. Why don't we first show you the results of each one? Here is Washington.
Bam! Look at that.
0.7%.
72.7%. Sounds like an FM station, not a percentage you would get, right? So high. So high of a percentage.
That's a very high percent. I mean, you don't normally see blowouts of that sort. Considering how big Washington is, it's not a lot of total voters for Washington, but it is a caucus. It's not a primary, so that's necessarily going to lower the number of people you get. I hope that the mainstream media bears that in mind when they control the total number of votes. I have a feeling they won't. But here's Alaska. If you like 72.7%, how do you like 81.6?
81.6 FM.
Yeah. Here's the bird. I was told that Sanders only does well in very liberal places, but perhaps Alaska, where there aren't many liberals, according to 538's logic, they'll become more liberal because they're isolated.
Maybe that's it.
That's a gigantic blowout. Again, it's a caucus, so low turnout in total, but blowout.
I've been to Alaska plenty.
Yeah?
And let me tell you something.
Looks lovely.
Cold.
It does seem a bit cold.
They're not kidding around with the cold up there.
Yeah, maybe they lured people into caucus by having something warm to put your hands near.
I bet you. I was there, no kidding. This is a true story, John. Stop me if I told you before. It's 42 below zero when I was there.
Really?
42. When it has to warm up 70 degrees just to fucking freeze.
That doesn't sound tolerable.
That's cool.
Good job. Were you there for a show?
Yes, I went there to see the
fun.
I went to see the ice dog.
To see puffins.
I did get to see the Northern Lights, though, if you know what those are.
I have heard of them, actually. Well, let's see if you like the climate in this state a little bit better. This is the Hawaii caucus. Final one. It took about 25 extra hours to come in, but almost cracking 70% there.
Wow.
And
it's funny you say cracking, because he had 69%.
So 69.8% to 30% is actually the closest result in any of the three caucuses going on. Now, look, we understand that he generally does better in caucuses, although not universally. He lost the first caucus that happened in Iowa. But nobody was expecting blowouts of this sort, especially not in Washington, where it was contested, Alaska, where there was almost no polling, and Hawaii, where there was no polling. So anybody telling you that, well, obviously he was going to win here is lying to you, because they had no data to actually back that up. And definitely not that he was going to crush in gigantic numbers. Now, not a gigantic number of delegates up. Thankfully, Washington had slightly over 100. So he did actually narrow the gap slightly, like 10, 15%, I think. And here you have the current delegate count. Now, this is not including any of the superdelegates, and I have heard of at least one superdelegate switching over to Bernie Sanders. That is one of hundreds that need to do so, but that is something.
Well, let me put it another way. That is one of hundreds that will do so when he takes the lead in the delegate count, which is going to happen on June 7th.
That's the biggest day ever. Now, bring that up really fast one more time. What you're going to see there is that she is up by slightly over 200 delegates, which is still, that's a very large amount. I mean, that's like California almost universally going for Bernie Sanders, or I think slightly more than New York going entirely. But it's not the gigantic gap that CNN insists on still including the 469 superdelegates. That is an attainable gap if he continues to dominate the way that he has, which is, that might be a little bit difficult. Because I did see a little bit of bad news. 538 looked ahead to the schedule, and I had not noticed this, but there are only 2 caucuses remaining. That's bad news, slightly. That does not mean that he can't catch up, but he does typically do better in caucuses. He's burned through a lot of caucuses recently. So in the same way that she can't rely on southern states anymore, he's not going to be able to rely on a ton of caucuses.
So what's interesting is that this guy just waylaid the shit out of the biggest political machine in the United States. Waylaid the shit out of them. And Debbie Downer over here telling you how it's not going to work out. I can't fucking believe you did that. Could you give me 15 seconds of enjoying this?
It's a warning.
Cut it out. Everywhere else is warning me.
No, but see, don't worry, because I'm going to give you more to enjoy in just a second.
Oh, okay.
And look, I just finished saying nobody expected him to dominate in the way that he just did. It's amazing. It's exactly what he needed.
Nate Silver had different numbers.
What different numbers?
For pledged delegates.
What does he have?
He has Hillary Clinton 1267, Bernie Sanders 1037.
Okay, so he's got a little bit more for both of them, which is actually slightly closer for Bernie. I know people have been wondering why is it that so few of the delegates from Washington have been allocated so far now, which is a good question.
Good question.
In a lot
Stop asking us it on Twitter, though.
I got a lot of tweets about it, and at that point I didn't know, and at that point I was on vacation, so I was like, I'm not worrying about this right now. But it's because in a lot of states they don't actually choose the particular delegates until they have elections slightly later on. Not elections that people go and vote in, but elections that the party has. So he will get those delegates, he just doesn't have them yet.
Right.
But I believe they're accounted for in the numbers that we're showing you, the final numbers, not the numbers for the individual state where they're still not allocated. So look, overall, great news in terms of the numbers, a little bit bad news in terms of running out of caucuses eventually. Just putting that out there. But there is one other thing I wanted to talk about. So the media, in reporting on his big win, I think that objectively, overall, they have been willing to say what is abundantly clear: he had a great night. And they're calling it Sanders Saturday, and they're talking about his momentum, and that's necessary because it's true, because you saw it in the numbers right there. But there is one thing that the media is doing that I don't think anybody understands, except perhaps the people who run CNN. They're trying to portray these wins as confirming what they've always known, that he can only win in white areas and rural areas, when these places are anything but that. So this is what Chris Moody said on CNN. These caucus states, largely white and rural, are the type of places Sanders traditionally does well, even though, again, we had no polls, and I don't think he predicted it. In order to win the nomination, he must replicate this success in other, more ethnically diverse states that hold primaries, as he did in Michigan last month. I also saw somebody tweet, you actually might have retweeted it, a Hillary staffer tweeted out, Hawaii, diverse? It's only 2.5% black. That's not the only form of diversity that we have in America, and I would think that a Hillary staffer would know that at this point. Hawaii is, in fact, only 25% white, making it the least white state in the country and the only state without a white majority. Alaska at 67% white is less white than 44 other states. But according to CNN, these are largely white. Largely meaning 1 out of 4. It's amazing that they're able to do that. Now, Washington is slightly more white, but still not as white as a number of other places. For some reason, when she won Iowa barely, she wasn't tainted as only appealing to Caucasians. Yet when he wins in some of the most diverse states in the entire country, this just fits the pattern. Nothing to see here. We can move along. He should probably drop out, by the way.
So I am also upset with the way CNN has been reporting this, and the fact that they don't, but at least they they put the caveat in there with everything that, hey, we're big donors to Hillary Clinton, so I think everything we say with a grain of salt. We're bought and paid for. We're part of the problem that Bernie Sanders is fighting against, that corporations run everything. So we're going to tell you that right up front. Hillary won, by the way. And even though she lost, when is he going to quit? It's gotten so bad that the New York Times actually wrote an editorial about it. How stupid pundits are being. And Morning Joe Ball actually...
Oh, yes. I actually want to talk about that tomorrow.
You want to talk about that tomorrow?
No, we can talk about it now if you want. I was going to show the video.
Let's show the... Oh, is it tomorrow?
Yeah, I didn't see it until right before the show. But that was actually, for them, that is one of the best things they've done in a long time.
You got to get up
But it is pretty ridiculous.
So they were even... Well, my point is, they were even calling it out. They were reading it saying how crazy it is that this guy just won 5 states, and they're asking him, when is he going to quit?
Exactly.
When is he going to get behind... And that bullshit, that hiding behind the veneer of when are you going to unite the party? It's time to unite the party. And guess what? Anybody's going to beat Donald Trump. Okay? Don't worry about that. People are worried about Donald Trump. Anybody you throw up against them is going to beat Donald Trump. Hillary will beat him. So will Bernie. So stop this bullshit about coalescing. We got to get behind
to save our chances.
Fear. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, don't worry. We can win. All right. You can put John Edwards could beat. Right?
Except you're Americans.
There's 2 Americas.
Exactly.
There's
maybe
America
one of them he can win.
for guys who cheat on their wife. Well, anyway, the point is, what I'm saying is that there are 3 kinds of Hillary Clinton voters. Right? There's the people who don't understand what the biggest problem in politics is today, and there's the people who do know that, but they don't care. And then there's the third kind who are voting out of fear of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
All of those 3 things are sad.
And it's bizarre that your fear of Donald Trump would lead you to vote for her.
That's crazy. So we have to stop neoliberalism. All right? So if we get Hillary Clinton gets elected, things don't get better. Things still get worse. And in fact, again, what she's going to do is split the natural opposition to bullshit neoliberalism policies, which are just conservative policies, corporate policies, spearheaded by a Democrat. So don't freak out about, oh my God, we might lose it. We're not. No one's losing to Trump. Ted Cruz still might beat Trump. Don't worry about it, okay? And by the way, they're going to get rid of him. He's not going to make it, okay?
Yeah.
So my whole point is, stop supporting corruption out of fear and start fighting corruption for a change. See how it feels.
Yeah.
And the least you should do is stop shaming people who are sick and tired of what's wrong with politics and are willing to stand up and have courage. Because it takes courage to change things. But if you don't have courage, at least stop trying to shame me, because I do have courage. Yeah. And I want to fight of what's screwing up our political system, but you don't want to. So you're one of those 3 things. Nobody ever says, I'm for Hillary because of this policy. I've never heard that.
They might, in more vague terms, say because she's always been for women and kids or something.
Yeah,
but if it's the actual policy that drive you, then you would simply go one step further and support Sanders, who is stronger for those policies.
Correct.
California just passed a $15 minimum wage, which we're going to talk about in the second hour. Hillary thinks that's going too far. Hillary's too liberal for Hillary.
So there are parts of the country already ahead of Hillary Clinton. The things she wants to try to do.
Yeah.
We're already past. We've blown past her.
Yeah.
Right.
And that state has caught up to Bernie Sanders, thankfully.
Yes,
that's what he said. Overall, I agree with you. I'm less and less concerned about Trump in terms of his chances in the election. Like I listened to Cenk and I agreed with him for a long time, but he's a bad candidate. Cenk, he's complaining about attack ads now. He hasn't gotten any actual issue-based attack ads because the Republicans don't want to attack him because they largely agree with him. He will be destroyed by either Sanders or Clinton.
So people stop worrying about that and stop hiding behind that veil of we got to unite, and you're disloyal somehow, or you're not being. Somebody said, you're going to value purity over pragmatism, and I'm like, it is much more pragmatic to support corruption out of fear. That's very, 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 and it does take courage to stand up to corruption. I'm going to go ahead and fight it. I'm going to fight corruption. I'm not going to give it my approval because I'm scared of a come over Führer. I'm not afraid of him.
Yeah, and again, if you're talking about pragmatism, the only data we have says that he has a better chance against Trump, not a worse chance. So I'm going to go for purity, and I'm going to get a side of pragmatism at the same time, and I'll enjoy my meal. I don't know what you're eating.
I don't know what I'm eating, but I will. Can I say one?
No.
Yeah, them.
Not them even, but
one. I want to make one more point before we get off this. Is that I've spent a weekend watching Hillary Clinton supporters argue against themselves. Right? They say, oh, Bernie thinks he can't get stuff done. Hillary will get stuff done. I'm like, well, Bernie, he can get. Then they say back, this is literally the argument. They go, hey, even Obama couldn't get anything through. They have a GOP Congress. So the whole point is you have to vote for Hillary because she can get stuff done, except she won't because of GOP. So why fucking vote for him? So anyway, that's one. It's funny to watch the Hillary Clinton supporters. They get so caught up in their own bullshit, they start to argue against their own arguments.
Yeah. No, I mean, I half wish that I was a Hillary supporter so that I would understand the psychology a little bit better. I can understand a large swath of it, but some of the young people in the media that I follow, I just find it mind-boggling.
Mind-boggling.
Stuff that they tweet out. I don't understand what has led to them being where they are.
There's nothing, if you're interested in politics, and you're on the left, you would be super upset with how money has corrupted politics. That it's completely corrupted. That's not a little. And by the way, I'm just echoing what Barack Obama said in 2007 and 2008 when he was running against Hillary the first time, when he said people are tired of government for the well-connected and the powerful, and they want to take their government back. He said that in 2007. It's even worse now.
Yeah, but see, I heard that Hillary was going to get money out of politics. I mean, I didn't hear in person. I heard in the media. I would have heard in person, but I couldn't afford the more than $300,000 to go to that George Clooney hosted fundraiser for Hillary Clinton, so I couldn't actually hear it with my own ears. But I think after she gets those millions, she's going to take money right out of politics. Who believes that? Who believes
no
that?
one. So the problem will get worse. The problem will get worse under Hillary Clinton, and it might get way worse because she splits the opposition, the natural opposition to those horrible neoliberal policies, just like why Occupy Wall Street happened and nothing came of it, because Barack Obama didn't support them, and he split. He had half the Democrats yelling at the Occupy Wall Street people, saying that, hey, why don't they learn how politics works, and they need to start registering voters and vote. No, they know how politics work. They voted. They voted for Barack fucking Obama. They get that politics are broken now, and that's why they were doing Occupy Wall Street. Okay, so it's even more broken now, but the person, Hillary Clinton, doesn't see a problem. She doesn't see a problem with the banks being too big right now. She doesn't see a problem with the kind of money in politics, except for Citizens United. So if you don't think that's a problem, you're not going to fix it. It's only going to get worse, all right? So if you think that they're too big. She doesn't even think they're too big. So if you think that money if you are astute enough to recognize, I think we all agree, I don't think anyone would disagree with this on the left, that the problem with money with politics today is money corrupting politics. And if you agree with that, which you should, if not, you're not paying attention, then you're supporting the poster child for what you agree is what's wrong with politics because you're afraid of Donald Trump.
Yeah. And supporting, look, Obama had an amazing fundraising machine. Hillary Clinton has an amazing fundraising machine of the traditional variety. Bernie Sanders doesn't have that shit. He barely does fundraisers because regular people just give him money.
Just give him money.
So you can understand why he wouldn't be lying when he says that he's going to reform the system. Nobody thinks that Hillary Clinton is going to. She is benefiting from it. You think she's going to disarm herself and then what, go into a re-election battle with the success that she's had so far with getting regular people to donate to her? She'd be ensuring that she couldn't win re-election. She would not do it. Nobody fucking thinks that.
Thanks, John.
I don't understand. By the way,
good to have you on our team, Johnny.
Still pissed off at CNN, though, especially, I don't have the montages, but people were tweeting us, thankfully, the most diverse place in America, Alaska, then, oh shit, it's all white. Hawaii is super white now. It was diverse before. They loved that narrative, that there was a very particular sort of person that supports Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
And it's a very white bro who's very liberal and he lives in the city. But now it's all rural, super liberal, really liberal farmers are the only people that support Sanders. That's what they want us to believe now. And that thing of him not being able to get anyone other than whites has shrunk so much that now all they're left with, and they'll continue to roll with it, is that he gets beaten in the deep south amongst older African Americans. That is his problem with diversity in America. Because he does fine even outside of the Deep South with African Americans, especially younger African Americans, and amongst other racial groups, because despite what some staffers on Hillary Clinton's side think, there are more than just white and black people in this country. Some would say they're significant, actually, in a number of ways.
I've spent some time in Hawaii, and every time I'm there, I'm like, Matt, what am I, in the Hamptons? What's with all these whiteys? Exactly. So many white, everywhere I look, whitey.
Yeah, anyway, that's just personal.
It's not how it is in Hawaii. Even at the nice hotels.
Okay, let's talk about tone. We're going to stick with the Hillary and the Bernie.
Let's talk about tone.
Yes. If you were hoping for a Bernie Sanders-Hillary Clinton debate in the near future, perhaps before some of the really consequential primaries that are coming up in their nominating contest, you probably shouldn't hold your breath. And in this video, you're going to find out why. You going to agree to it?
I think, what was notable this weekend wasn't so much that, but in my mind was the Washington Post story with his own campaign talking about how they're poll testing more negative attacks on Hillary Clinton.
Why wouldn't you think?
Because I think the real question is, what kind of campaign is Senator Sanders going to run going forward? This is a man who said he'd never run a negative ad, ever. He's now running them. They're now planning to run more. Let's see the tone of the campaign he wants to run before we get to any other questions.
What's the risk?
There's no risk. She's done very well in the debates. The debates have been very good, but Senator Sanders doesn't get to decide when we debate, particularly when he's running a very negative campaign against us. Let's see if he goes back to the kind of tone he's going to set early on. If he does that, then we'll talk about debates, but we're not going to talk about it.
So no chance of a New York debate?
I didn't say that. I said we're not going to talk about it. We're going to see what kind of tone he sets. That's going to be disappointing to a lot of Democrats who feel we have to start focusing on Republicans, whether it's Donald Trump or Ted Cruz.
Really just disappointing because we don't want to have to go through the inconvenience of having a primary that we're still in.
Yeah, we don't
I
want.
can see how that'd be inconvenient.
Even the fact that he's now outpolling Hillary Clinton nationwide. We just want to move past all that and pretend. Like how Hillary, she gave the same courtesy to Barack Obama in 2008. Remember, she dropped out right away in July. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was about unity then.
But now he's got to drop out in March. But she didn't drop out until, when was it? At least mid-June,
Until basically almost the end of the entire primary.
Yeah, it was like 5 minutes before
she had already gotten in the car to go to the convention.
Yeah.
But she dropped out mid-convention.
She dropped out then.
Yeah.
No kidding.
The entire thing
So that's why, again, it's just, and they're trying to pull the wool over the eyes of people on the left, the people who are the most fact-based, right? The people who are, and that's why, and the people who are supporting Bernie Sanders are the most interested in the issue. They're the most educated voters.
Yeah.
Right? It's like if you're not educated, you're afraid of Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
Oh, why is the guy socialism? But if you're educated, and so then you see through this guy's bullshit.
Yeah.
But CNN, she didn't see through that guy's bullshit. That's hilarious.
No, I mean, she kept pushing him, and there probably will end up being a debate, and we're going to get to the chief strategist for Bernie Sanders has a response to this. Check his tone. How patronizing is that?
There's a joke on Twitter going around. It says, no more debates unless Bernie stops using facts against me. That's Hillary Clinton. And then Bernie says, spoken like a true leader, too scared to debate but ready to run a country.
Yeah. If she doesn't like Bernie Sanders' tone, wait until she gets a load of Donald Trump. Bernie Sanders' tone?
And we say, his tone.
Quick aside, can you imagine the shitstorm that would hit the internet if the Sanders campaign criticized Hillary Clinton's
tone?
Can you imagine? But let's move past that. So
he should.
Look,
just to see what happens.
You can support your candidate, obviously, and you can be enthusiastic about Hillary Clinton. But I still expect that you, as a Democrat, as a liberal, will be honest and not commit certain campaigning sins. And there have been a few in this campaign against Bernie Sanders that I wish that I was compiling a list of the people in her campaign and her supporters in the media who have been willing to tell the most hateful lies, and they don't fucking care. Okay, this guy who, since the beginning of his career, before he had a political career, was organizing against segregation to try still to say that he's a racist.
Yeah.
He's running a very white campaign. That is a mortal sin to tell that lie. This guy, to try to paint him as a misogynist during this entire campaign, to say that his supporters are only supporting him because he's a man and because they hate the fact that she's a woman, mortal sin in terms of campaigning. And now this, I've listened to him speak. I've listened to him speak so many times, I'm bored of hearing him speak. He's one of the most positive politicians I've ever heard. I'm sure he's running some ad where he talks about the fact that she raises money off of Wall Street. If you don't like that tone, imagine if it was us running against her. I'd be shredding her like a honey badger. To say that he's a dirty politician with a bad tone, you lying sack of shit, chief strategist. I don't even know who that guy is. It's a bald-faced lie. They can't attack him on the policies because they know the primary voters prefer him on the policies, and so they have to not just make up stuff about him, but to go directly counter to all of what history has told us about who he is as a person and as a politician.
It's pretty disappointing to see Democrats act like the worst parts of Republicans. Yeah. That's what this has really shown me. You know, like, and we saw, and guess what? She did the same thing last time. I don't know if you remember when she ran against Barack Obama, the underhanded bullshit she was pulling against Barack Obama, that Keith Olbermann almost blew a gasket. Do you remember him screaming? They said Bobby Kennedy was assassinated. They're saying that when the first black guy. Anyway, they did a lot of underhanded shit.
They released a picture of him in the traditional to try to make people think, oh, he's a scary foreign Muslim.
And everyone, no one likes her enough to elect her that time. No, it's only gotten worse. The problems of the country have only gotten worse. There's only more money in politics. She's only gotten more brazen. She's only flaunting her liberal base in her sticking. Yeah. It's again, three types of Hillary Clinton voters. You either don't know what the major problem in politics are, you don't care, or you're just so afraid of Donald Trump, you're going to vote for her because you don't obviously aren't informed enough to know she does worse.
Yeah. I will throw a small fourth category. There are some people who, for a long time, have loved her for all of what she has done and accomplished and what she represents in terms of her own career. That is a significant number of people. It's not enough to win you a primary for the presidential nomination, but there are some people like that. That guy that you saw in that CNN clip is not one of those people. Now, we have the chief strategist for Bernie Sanders, Tad Devine's response to this. New York is obviously going to be a pivotal state in this contest. I believe this is actually spoken directly to Jordan Sheraton, our campaign reporter. New York is obviously going to be a pivotal state in this contest, and to deny the people of New York the opportunity to see a debate in a state the secretary represented, was elected twice to the U.S. Senate, has her national headquarters in Brooklyn right now. To then say you're not going to debate Bernie Sanders in New York, I think, is just not going to be acceptable to voters in New York State. I think voters there have a right to expect more. I think they will. And I think that we will have a debate in New York. She doesn't want it because I think that she's realized that as good of a debater as she might be, he benefits simply by having people in these states see his message for the first time. And I don't think she wants to give him that.
She does not want people to hear his message, because when people hear his message, they stand up and cheer, and they wait in line for 6 hours to vote in the sun in Arizona. Can we show that video of her? We're going to show that video.
Oh, I completely forgot about that. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. So let's say the whole idea of you're running for the presidency, and now all of a sudden you don't want to debate. There was a very fiery response to that sort of idea. Let's turn to that now.
Honestly, I just believe that this is the most important job in the world. It's the toughest job in the world. You should be willing to campaign for every vote. You should be willing to debate anytime, anywhere.
Oh, anytime, anywhere, except New York during the primary against Bernie Sanders.
Except my home state.
Except when there's bad tone.
I don't like that tone. Yeah. He needs more cocoa butter.
I'm sure that on Morning Joe they're going to be playing that to her over and over. I bet they play that over and over. They might not, but from the activity I've already seen on Twitter, she's going to come across that video a little bit.
Yeah. Oh,
she seems to be spreading.
People are spreading that around.
Yeah.
And I'm going to actually make a nice little video about that later for the YouTube.com/Jimmy Dore channel. Check it out. It's growing. We're getting crazy.
See, Jimmy, you're saying that to people as if they're not already subscribed to it. When I look at the numbers, they must be already.
They must be. We're adding 1,000 people a day. And usually I'm bullshitting when I say stuff like that.
But it's literally true.
Things are really growing now. We actually are putting a little attention into the channel. Never did before.
There you go. That's one way to make it grow.
You know what really got me going, Johnny?
What's that?
It was this growth of your channel.
Was it really?
I was like, if that motherfucker
could do it. Dude, him and Hannah Cranston can do it? Clearly anyone can.
No, the success of your channel is staggering.
Thank you. And continually shocked.
And it made me think, like, what the F? We started at the Young Turks. I put in half the effort. And I'm like,
at least twice as talented.
It's both.
Okay, jackass. Now you don't get to support yourself anymore.
No, so anyway, it's really, I owe it, honest to God, an inspiration, work ethic.
That's why, ironically, now your channel blowing up is making me wish I had more time to put into my personal channel.
Oh, see, we inspire each other at the Young Turks. That's what it is, because we don't get paid well. We have to inspire.
We desperately need these outlets, basically. Okay, let's do one more quick story before we jump to our first break. We're going to talk about Donald Trump. Donald Trump found himself inadvertently part of a Mexican Easter tradition as people across that country burned him in effigy. Take a look at this video. That last one is horrifying. That's like something out of The Purge. See those guys? I love the spinning that it imparts right before he blows up. This was the work in part. It happened all over Mexico, but in part, Felipe Linares made one of these, and he said, since he started his campaign and began talking about immigrants, Mexico, and Mexicans, I said, I've got to get this guy. I think they just did. Apparently, this happened in multiple cities. And the burning that you saw there is part of a widespread Mexican Holy Week tradition where neighborhoods burn effigies to represent Judas Iscariot, who betrayed Jesus Christ according to the Bible. The effigies are often modeled on unpopular political figures. I like that it's been co-opted for political reasons. And so he is, of course, the hated politician of the day, and so he had a place of pride in the middle of that.
I hope they investigate that. I bet those people stole the fireworks to blow that up. Those are all criminals. You see, they have stolen goods.
Some of them are nice people.
They probably some of them wanted to rape that thing.
Jesus. That one is so detailed. The amount of work that went into that. And also, by the way, when you talk about burning an effigy, I think of like a straw thing that you light on fire. It's something altogether different when you blow it up chunk by chunk as if it's being ripped apart by machine gun.
Like at a Macy's. It's like a Macy's Day parade. Oh, that is pretty. I don't want to use that overused word awesome, but that is awesome. Especially how it's blowing up like
the back of his head.
Because your hair catches on fire.
Yeah, that wig is very flammable. It's dangerous. Don't stay near.
That's more like a fishing line he's got wrapped around. Is that fishing line Donald Trump has up there?
That is. It's a thin copper wire. Now, of course, from his point of view, he probably sees this as, oh yeah, of course they hate me. I'm strong and they're rapists and criminals, and so they should hate me. But like for a regular person who has any humility and willingness or ability to look at your life situation and the things you've done from another person's point of view, which he has absolutely zero of, wouldn't that make you question, like, why are they burning me all across a country that I've probably never even been in? Why would they hate me so before I'm even a politician? But he doesn't think.
I bet he wants to knock the crap out of them when he sees it. He wants to knock the crap out of them. I don't know
legal bills.
I don't know if I'm going to be doing the fighting or someone else will be doing the fighing. These are all direct quotes. Remember, he said that. And, that's what they swung back. Somebody should swing back at them. We need more of that.
Yeah.
And not the old days. People are afraid to hurt those people.
They're not rough anymore. They would have been much tougher in the past.
People are now too politically correct. They're too afraid to hurt somebody.
Back early on in the primary season, when I believed that Trump didn't actually expect to become president, and actually one of his PR people who's been tweeting a lot, who moved on from his campaign, says that he didn't early on, that this sort of just got out of control. I was going to order a bottle of champagne for when he dropped out, and then as he did better and better, I got rid of the idea. But now, as we get closer and closer to the conventions and then the general election, I'm going to have to do that. Can you imagine what a happy day it's going to be? Not just when the Democrats win the White House again, but if he loses, if he gets the nomination and loses, he has no expectation of his own fallibility as a human. He doesn't think he can lose.
He's losing. So that's the thing too. Let me just say this to people: don't freak out. Let's enjoy.
We need to get this t-shirt.
Enjoy this Donald Trump debacle, because what Donald Trump is doing is destroying the Republican Party. So this is 35, 40 years of the Southern strategy coming home to roost. And if you don't know what the Southern strategy is, Google it. And 2 out of the last 3 RNC chairmen had to apologize for the Southern strategy. This is Lee Atwater, Pat Buchanan, all their, and then also when they get them to deny their anti-intellectualism, so their anti-intellectualism paired with their racism is embodied in Trump, and now it's personified, and all it had to have was a loudmouth behind it, and boom, you got your perfect Republican candidate who's going to destroy your party and have zero coattails.
Zero coattails, that is going to be nice. I actually have a little bit of good news. We almost did it as a story, but there's a lot of reasons to think that Donald Trump being the nominee is going to hurt the Republicans. In the short term, in terms of this election, it does seem like already some of the senators who are up for re-election on the Republican side are starting to distance themselves, which I think is wise. And oh my God, can you imagine if the Senate did flip? But in terms of long term, I mean, just having the primary that they've had and having the party not really even support the candidate, I mean, that's hurting them in terms of party building, for sure. But when you look at his actual numbers, and I saw a breakdown, except in New Hampshire, he has always done increasingly poorly the younger the age group is in the primary. And he does especially badly amongst young voters.
Really?
So imagine if he gets chosen. In New Hampshire, he did better with young voters. But aside from that, and he's won in a lot of states, many, many states, he does really shitty amongst young voters. So imagine people who are considering entering the Republican Party, the people who are going to be reliable Republican voters the rest of their life, theoretically, the candidate that they want isn't going to be chosen if Trump gets chosen because they don't like Trump. So they're already going to be pissed at the Republicans for that. And then they have to live through his actual general election campaign, which is going to be an embarrassment the likes of which the Republican Party has never seen. Yes! He might turn off millions of future Republicans.
Yes.
Now, many of them might not go to the Democratic Party, but they might become politically apathetic, which I don't normally like, but in this case might be a good thing.
Look, Mitt Romney couldn't get the Hispanics to vote for him. He couldn't get any minority. Mitt Romney couldn't, and he was being as nice as he could. He puts the nice face. He puts the nice face on evil, right? So he is very nice. He barely even mentioned the long form birth certificate. He brought it up once. So he's barely a racist, right?
Barely a racist.
He's racist. He's willing to go there. But anyway, and he couldn't get him. And so this guy, and they came out with that diagnosis. Reince Priebus got the diagnosis for what's wrong with the Republican Party. How come we lost to a black guy twice in America that's mostly white still, and we lost to a black guy twice? It was driving them crazy. And so they did the investigation, they did the diagnosis, and the diagnosis was, hey, we got to stop shitting on the Hispanics so hard and maybe try to bring them into the party. So then they started coming out with these ideas to get them in, we can have path to citizenship, and then Donald Trump, and that was all over with. All over. That's all. So it's going to be worse than it was for Mitt Romney. It's going to be worse. So I want people stop freaking out and enjoy this debacle that is the Donald Trump candidacy. Yeah. Enjoy it more and know that the Democrats are going to win. So no matter, and you know what? Here's a thing too about Hillary Clinton. I saw a thing by I'll think of his name, but he makes the point that FDR wasn't so super liberal before he got elected, right? That he kind of became that way. He was actually not even, he didn't actually even, he was like the incrementalist in his campaign. And I didn't know any of this stuff, so I have to go back and look up, who's that? He's the left-wing radio guy. I'll think of his name in a second, but I know, who cares? Sorry.
So are you hoping that might happen to Hillary?
I'm hoping that maybe maybe Bernie Sanders shakes her out of it. Maybe there's a chance.
Probably not. You're hoping.
I'm hoping. So I'm telling everyone, don't freak out. Even if Hillary becomes president, there's a chance it goes good. It probably won't.
Even Obama, he had a couple of things that he's done. I mean, he got rid of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. He came out strong for gay marriage. I mean, he has done some big liberal things. That hasn't necessarily been the total arc of his presidency, but there is reason to hope. We don't even need to move to that sort of hope yet, but if we get to that point, then we can still have some hope.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to get everyone.
And along the way, Trump will destroy the Republican Party.
Let's enjoy this more. This is our time. Yeah. Let's enjoy it more, is what I'm trying to say.
I will try. Okay, we need to take our first break. We're a little bit overdue for that. We have the iPad. We're going to have your tweets at #TYT Live, and we'll be reading them when we come back from this break. Jimmy Dore, John Irola. We're on a sitcom in the 60s, I think. I actually don't even know what decade that came out.
That sounded like
I don't really
that actually sounded like late 90s, like Too Close for Comfort. Monroe. It sounded like that.
Yeah,
I know. You didn't watch TV. I get it.
I watch a lot of recent TV. By the way,
I've been watching that People versus the O.J. Simpson.
Oh yeah,
Love it.
They're reviewing it on What the Flick, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, I hear it's quite well done. Okay, let's read some of these tweets. I promised you one. Some people are excited that we're together. Audrey Sparks saying, "Holy shit, Jimmy Job!" Woo! Thank you, Audrey. It feels good to be back. Seth Iser, referring back to our CNN story, says, "Why do I get the feeling, even though he's won 6 of the last 7 big, CNN will still say Bernie needs to drop out? Well, to unify the party, clearly. He's done well. Just don't say anything mean about her and drop out."
And by the way, can I just say that Sarah Purcell, who was the county recorder of Maricopa County, who cut the polling places from 200 to 60, and we made fun of her hard. I don't know if we covered it. I'm sure they covered it here, but I also covered it on my show. She was in a hearing today, which I watched from Gavel to Gavel, which was I would hope I'm sure we'll cover it tomorrow or something. We're going to cover.
Yeah, I think we'll cover the hearing tomorrow.
And there was unbelievable fraud. So there's voter suppression that happened in Arizona, and I say Bernie did much better in Arizona, possibly winning it. They're literally cut it from 400 to 200 to 60. People were in lines for 6 hours. It's bullshit what happened in Arizona, and the Justice Department ought to investigate.
Yeah.
So my point is, he probably won 6 out of 6.
Yeah. Or 7 out of 7.
Whatever. A lot. He's
lot.
winning. Don't freak out.
Neil Wilcott says, "Hillary has everything to lose in a New York debate. She's got such a lead in polls that Sanders' message can only harm her." I believe that is what is driving this tone thing. His tone has not changed. Let's see. Alex, Sosa says, "Interesting how Clinton and Trump are the only 2 presidential candidates refusing to do more debates. If they're the nominees, we might not have any debates.
We might not.
We might go the entire time, which would be good for my afternoons and evenings, but bad for the country, bad for democracy." Let's see. Sabrina Hartman says, "I would totes buy a Don't Freak Out t-shirt." I told them they should make it, but
they haven't made it yet?
They wouldn't listen to me. Not yet.
Okay, I'm going to make it. I'm going to make a Don't Freak Out t-shirt.
You're going to make it? Get on Photoshop. Okay, we do have an incredibly serious story from the weekend. Sanders' Saturday was not the only thing to happen, so we do have to turn to that now. This weekend, there was an absolutely devastating terrorist bombing in Lahore, Pakistan, that killed 70 people as we are filming. The suicide bombing at a public park was claimed by the Pakistani Taliban's Jamaat-ul-Ahrar faction, which once declared loyalty to Islamic State. I don't personally know if they're still affiliated with the Islamic State, but that is their previous declaration. And the group said that it was targeting Christians, it obviously being an Easter gathering at that park. At least 29 children enjoying an Easter weekend outing were among those killed. Absolutely devastating numbers here. In addition to the 70 killed, hundreds were wounded. I mean, we were talking about an absolutely packed park. We've got a little bit of B-roll that we're going to roll. Be warned, it is graphic.
I don't want to see it.
But I've seen photographs of the park previously, and it looks like every packed park you've ever seen in your life. The idea that somebody would purposefully target it is absolutely outrageous. And this attack was Pakistan's deadliest since December 2014, the massacre of 134 school children at a military-run academy in the city of Peshawar that prompted a government crackdown on Islamist militancy. Man, that feels like that just happened. I remember reporting.
I remember when that happened, yeah. So it's horrible and...
absolutely horrible.
Yeah, I don't get it.
So back at that time, there was a crackdown on the militancy. The military is working with the law enforcement there, saying that they're going to do the same thing now. They're coordinating and holding raids, literally as we speak, to try to track down the group responsible in ongoing conflict there in Pakistan. The military spokesman, General Asim Bahwa, said intelligence agencies, the Army and Rangers, had already launched several raids around Punjab following the attack. arresting an unspecified number of suspects and recovering arms caches. So potentially some early success in those raids, but unfortunately they weren't able to do it beforehand. And so absolutely devastating. This was a bad week in terms of international terrorism. Almost every week is, you just sometimes don't hear about the events.
Again, Muslims, the victims of the crazy Muslims,
and people of the region, even if they are Christians, and it's to some extent in this case.
Right.
But as was predicted immediately after it was announced that the attack happened, there will not be the coverage or the international solidarity that there was and should be after things like Brussels, after Paris. And that is just the pattern that we see. Ankara had a bombing, very little coverage. There was a female suicide bomber bombed a mosque in Kenya a couple of weeks ago. There was absolutely zero coverage. I came across the story online.
I just heard about it right now from you.
There you go. Understandably, because it doesn't get talked about. And I actually think that the media is wrong in both cases. It's not just hypocritical. And I would say, look, if CNN and MSNBC, Fox, if all of these outlets, even New York Times even, like generally the newspapers are better in terms of this, but they're not even immune to this. If they want to make the case for why, and I think maybe you could make the case for why you should cover terrorism in certain regions more than in others, fine. They should have to make that case. They should not be able to simply hide behind people not publicly forcing them to reckon with the fact that we can literally point to a country and say, if there's a bombing here, they're not going to report on it. Here, Aaron Burnett is going to be in a vest reporting every night. And we just know that it's going to happen. And it does always happen.
I say whatever it takes to get Aaron in a vest.
Yes. I'd actually forgotten. She hasn't really been involved in the election.
She's out front, John.
Literally.
She's out front.
But the thing that frustrates me is that both that they don't care that this absolutely massive bombing happens in Pakistan, so they ignore it. But then when you look at the Brussels coverage, and look, I was on vacation, and so I had time, which I don't normally have, to scan CNN and MSNBC from time to time, and it's the non-stop coverage, where you just repeat hour after hour the two facts you know, you've learned nothing new, but you just keep it on there because you've been told in a focus group that it does well and that people will watch. And that bothers me because it's not just, oh, they're making money and nothing bad happens. They're making money, and they're doing the work of terrorists. The purpose of a terrorist attack is to scare people. Now, simply reporting on the attack is not doing the work of terrorists. People need to know what's going on. But to callously drill it into people's heads hour after hour so that you can make advertising revenue, you don't care if it gives people a 100% disproportionate and unrealistic view of the actual threat of international terrorism. Google Facts tweeted out that you're actually in America 8 times more likely to be killed by a police officer than by a terrorist, but people aren't that scared of police officers. And look, even that, your chance is incredibly low. You're more likely to be killed by a shark while being hit by lightning than to die to a terrorist attack in America. But people consistently rate it as the most important topic every single time, every election, and it's because the media drills it into your head. And so they're wrong to ignore Lahore, and they're wrong to prostitute out an attack in Brussels so that they can make a little bit more money. And I keep saying CNN, it is by no means just CNN. It's all of the mainstream news, especially the 24-hour cable news networks that have to continually justify having 24 hours of news when they're not going to cover the vast majority of the world's population and what actually happens to them. It's just incredibly frustrating. It's frustrating when we have to cover it here, and on the week when I'm off, when I get to see what a normal person experiences in terms of the media coverage, it's even more frustrating. Because this is why people are so fucking scared all the time of something that should not scare them that much. You should be concerned, but it should not be the single driving force in how you interact with politics.
Yeah, Americans afraid of terrorism it's not funny. It's just goes to, it's like look, the corporate propaganda of fear works. Yeah, people are afraid. I mean, I remember when ISIS started cutting people's heads off with kitchen knives, but let's remember that's a much worse way than blowing their heads off with a bomb. Yeah. So when they started doing that, Chris Hardball started freaking out. What's the president going to do tomorrow? He's got to answer back to them. What is he going to do? And they kept playing. Oh my God, they're cutting people's heads. You look out your window and it's just crickets. What's going on out there? But everyone's shitting their pants because the media wants you to shit your pants because war sells papers. Yeah. It gets views on TV. Violence sells papers, it gets views on TV, and if you stay scared, they stay employed, and everybody makes money. And if you think I'm kidding, we all heard Les Moonves cheering on a fascist taking over our country because they're all going to get even wealthier from it. They already have more money than they know what to do with. So don't listen to the mainstream. I tweeted that same thing out, that Google fact that you're 8 times more likely, and I had a sneaking suspicion that that was a worldwide statistic and not a statistic from the United States. Because if you know how many people the cops in the United States have already killed this year, it's in the hundreds already. Already in the United States. They've already killed hundreds of people. Hundreds. Meaning more than 100. Yeah. More than 200 even.
I've seen it. It's actually significantly higher usually in most years.
Yeah.
Okay, let's turn to one more story before we end the first hour. South Carolina Republicans have turned to a pretty underhanded tactic to try to crack down on Syrian refugees receiving aid in resettling in the United States, and that tactic has nearly become law. It's a new bill that would require the sponsor of a refugee or the group helping them resettle in the state, many of these faith-based groups, by the way, to register them in a database operated by the South Carolina Department of Social Services and available only to law enforcement. Well, aren't they merciful in that case? But again, I love the idea that Syrian refugees, they're dangerous enough to register. Guns, though,
Guns, though!
Can't register a gun. Go on.
No.
That's not dangerous. Guns don't kill people. Syrian refugees kill people, according to the South Carolina legislature. It's already passed the Senate, by the way. But that's not even the worst part, the registration. That's the appetizer. Refugee sponsor shall be, this is the literal language of the bill, shall be strictly liable to a person if the refugee acted in a reckless, willful, or grossly negligent manner, committed an act of terrorism, or committed one of the violent crimes defined in Section 16-1-60 that resulted in physical harm or injury to a person or damage to or theft of real or personal property. So the idea is, if you aid a refugee in coming into this country from Syria, and if they rob a liquor store, then you robbed a liquor store. And if that sounds to you like it might be unconstitutional, that's because I'm fairly certain it's unconstitutional. I think you can write that down in the law, but I don't think that's how the law actually works. I don't think you can send people to jail for the crimes that people that their church helped resettle committed. Now, a co-sponsor of the bill, Kevin Bryant, guess which party he's in, says, with the danger today of a terrorist infiltrating the refugee program, we have no other option than to enroll this information. We've got to choose our own citizens over those who are not citizens of our country. No other option. None. Heard that from expert on international refugee resettlement, Kevin Bryant. Now, I don't typically turn to the church to oppose bills, but in this case, I love the message. This is coming from Lutheran Services Carolina's President Ted Goings, who says, Scripture tells us that we are all created in the image of God, that we should love one another, that we should be just and merciful, and that we should welcome the stranger. The Good Samaritan didn't ask about race, religion, or country of origin. The bill will make welcoming the stranger a much more difficult process. Under this bill, if the Good Samaritan helped that stranger on his way to the city in, I believe he was going to Damascus, and then that guy robbed someone, then the Good Samaritan is going to jail. It's like they're... Kevin Bryant, an atheist, you think? I'm willing to bet he's a Christian.
It's like this weird strain of Christians. It's like they spend all their time thinking of maniacal ways to hurt people.
Yeah.
Like maniacal. Like that's a maniacal way. They just, in Arizona, they passed a law where you can't, it's a felony, prison by 1 year, if you deliver someone, like they mail their ballots to them, to their house.
Yeah.
So if you delivered someone else's ballot to a polling place, that's now a felony. So they they're gonna, and they'll send you to prison for a year. So this is it's like these Christians that sit around thinking up ways to screw over people, poor people, people of color, people. It seems like the least amongst us. So whatsoever you do to the least of my brothers, don't worry about it. Fuck them over if they're not white.
Yeah. And look, I haven't gone to church in a long time, but I was raised up until like 9 going to church. And from what I learned, now granted, this is East Coast, fairly liberal Christianity, both Lutheran and Roman Catholic. The Syrian refugee situation is the easiest one for a Christian. Oh, this is almost literally out of the Bible. These people live in almost literal hell. We've got a gigantic, rich country. Let's move some of them in, as many other countries are, especially in Europe. and try to help them out, and try to integrate them, and try to make their lives better, to try to avoid them staying in that region and either dying or being sold into slavery, perhaps sexual slavery by ISIS. That seems like a layup, but for a lot of Christians, it's not. Now, we do have to acknowledge that many of the groups that this bill is targeting are faith-based groups, which means that there are many churches, many religious people who genuinely believe what's actually in the Bible about helping people, about helping to resettle and all that. And so they are actually trying to do that. But for many others, even though they've been raised and they've campaigned based on the word of that Bible, and man, we've got the literal wisdom of God, fuck them, they're scary. It's not the country we want to live in.
Can we just, here's my prop, and I've proposed this before and people don't listen. Can we refight the Civil War? Is that possible?
I don't want to refight this.
Well, here's what we do. We declare war on the Confederacy, and then we go, let's have a war, and then right before it starts, you go, okay, you win. And then they win. No fighting. They get to win and have their own stupid, backward, redneck country. And all the cool people who live there in red states, because there are lots of cool people who live in red states. I know. I meet them. I tell jokes to them. You have to get the fuck out of there. I'm sorry. That's just we got to get. This should. The United States should be 3 countries, not alone, let alone 2. Right?
What should the 3 be?
There should be the South, and then that weird Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, all those weirdos, which is this is battles as well. And
what? And then California narrowing in the middle,
I think California
and then expanding to the East Coast.
California is its own country. How about that?
Well, look, California would like to separate into a number of other states, and look, I think that idea is interesting.
It would be a much better.
There are states like Texas; they talk about secession all the time.
And I say go.
Sarah Palin's husband, they want to leave too.
And hey,
I want to keep them. They're for Bernie.
No, I say this. And I love America. I just don't like. I just want to see it. I think Abe Lincoln was wrong.
You should probably specify what he was wrong about.
I think he was. He was wrong. He should not have sat in the balcony. That was a big mistake. No, I think. Can we just let them go already? Do we have to keep reporting on that? Oh, what's the next? Oh, we got another story coming out of Georgia, John. They're going to outlaw books. I don't know if you heard that. Hey, we're going to go in South Carolina. They say if you're gay, we get to hang you from a tree. Hang on, we're going to go back to Mississippi. Everyone forgot how to talk. Now we're going to go
Florida. A man he's been arrested for having sex with an alligator.
Oh, look at that.
That's so weird.
And they're Christians.
Yeah, my mom lives in Florida. I don't want us to see the whole thing.
My parents live in Florida too now.
Really?
They're snowbirds.
Oh, you know. Okay, unfortunately, that's all the time that we have for the first hour. We're going to have to return to the second Civil War question. We're going to table that for now.
You know, it sounds radical.
Offer amendments in TYT Live.
Think about it, people. Don't freak out. I have to leave. I'm not here for the next hour, but please go over to the youtube.com/Jimmy Dore Show. And I'll be here tomorrow night. We're doing the GOP thing.
Yep.
And I'll have some more words of wisdom about don't freaking out.
That's an interesting way to put that. Now, Anna Kasparian will be here for the second hour after this break.
She's my favorite.
She's probably my favorite, too. She's my favorite. She's nice.
Of all you assholes.
Doesn't eat a lot. Jesus Christ. Okay, with that, we're going to go to this break. Continue to tweet us at #TYT Live. We'll read some when Anna and I return after this.
We talk about TYT Army being so strong. Usually they help us run our show. Now they're going to help us run the country.
Like this.
It's time that we reclaim democracy for the people.
We had a huge victory for Wolfpack.
When Lincoln said this was a country by, of, and for, he said of the people, not of corporations.
Our representatives don't represent us. Whoa! Democracy! United! We are! We are! Too strong! Stop! There's thousands of volunteers. You need to be among them.
With Wolfpack, the mission is so clear.
Money is killing our democracy. 96% of Americans want it. When you get the power back, oh, that feels good. This is just the beginning. Let's go get them, man. Up and at them. Knock, knock. We're coming for them! Wolf-pack.com. I do a whole bunch of stuff behind the scenes. My name is Dave. I'm going to tell you some amazing facts. There was one woman in the elevator was wide open, and here I am, now scrambling to repair and posting. Oh, you got a great relationship. Enjoy.
Okay, fine. We'll do your budget. It's gonna be a nice fucking middle finger to that.
You especially are so troopy. More boring, less handsome version of Jack.
Only so many ways you can cook a steak, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you want some fucking tuna.
Maybe edit that out. I thought it was a little embarrassing, but if people like it, I'll do it. Who is hotter? Jen is macho. There aren't going to be rose petals on the side of the runner. Why am I there?
It was the best Valentine's Day I've ever had.
Oh, how could someone not be attracted?
I don't know, you did it.
Thanks for being members and for being patient with me in this post-game show.
Damn it, they failed us. And if you're not angry about that, Michael, and any of you out there, then you're damn wrong. Because you should be angry. Young Turks.
If it was genuine, he was mad. Jake Uger, known online as one of the Young Turks, isn't afraid to throw some punches.
3, 2, 1, fade up.
I just remember thinking, what is this guy's name? Jake the Turk Uger. I think a TV station this says. The whole point is for me to yell and scream and tell you what I think. It's right out of like Wayne's World. This guy on this little rinky-dink website is speaking truth to power. We've been averaging 600,000 views a day, beating most of the cable shows in America. We're the largest online news show in the world. We're celebrating our 1 billionth view. We're coming. More politics ahead with Cenk Uygur. He knew that the MSNBC opportunity was an experiment. And Phil and host beat CNN headline news combined. At some point, they want to give me a show. Every single year, that comes out of our paycheck. We put it in, and you're saying we were suckers.
When you, as a host, tells someone you're interviewing to shut up, that's going to raise a red flag.
That guy needed an all less shut up.
If President Obama's doing the wrong thing, I'm not going to tell you that he's doing the right thing so I can support him. He says to me, you won't believe the meeting that I just had. The head of MSNBC talked to me. They want him off the air. Cenk took an incredible risk. We're supposed to challenge the government. That's the role of the media. The Democrats and the Republicans are here to screw you. And who on the air is saying it? I wouldn't have done what he did. That if I'm going to be a talk show host, it'd be the biggest talk show host in the country. I don't think anyone else does it better. I don't think anyone's even close. Before you know it, I'll be back on your TV doing an actual show. I guarantee it.
Welcome back to TYT. Anna Kasparian and John Idarola with you. Cenk is not joining us for the second hour. I have refused to commit to another second hour with Cenk until he changes his tone.
He said that he wouldn't run attack ads during the break.
You know, the thing is, he had promised that, you know, he wouldn't run any negative commentary, but I feel like some of his commentary has been negative. Not necessarily negative toward me, just negative in general.
If he feels that he has to do a first hour to, like, send a message, fine. He can do the first hour, but it has to be nice.
He has to be nice. If we disagree on anything, he cannot state that he disagrees with me, because, I mean, that's just unacceptable.
We're being too charitable. He needs to just drop out of show business and unify the hours. Oh, God, this primary.
By the way, Cenk's in Taiwan, so that's why he's not here.
Yeah, better reason.
And if I ever had issues with Cenk's tone, I mean, for it to come up now after 9 years would be a little strange. Right?
Also,
Anyway,
good luck fixing that.
I know, exactly. All right, we have a great hour ahead for you guys. And in terms of that story on Hillary's tone, check out my column in Raw Story. I'll publish it tonight. I'm still finalizing the details on that. But yeah, Raw Story, I write for them. You guys should check it out. Now let's go ahead and read some tweets. You want to do that?
Sure.
All right.
Go crazy. Oh, we also didn't do the members in the first time.
All right, so let's go ahead and thank our members because they're awesome. Member number 1213, Andrea Morgan, you are the shit. And also Alex Wilms, who is member number 1214. 1213 and 1214. So thanks, guys. We love our members. And in terms of our tweets, we have Tara Southwell saying, Jimmy Dore makes a good point. Let the hateful whites have their own country, and the North won't have to subsidize them anymore. I don't know what that discussion was about, but it sounds interesting.
He wants the second Civil War.
Okay, well...
Trump could become the president of the new Confederacy, I think. But he'd have to relocate.
Brahms. All right. And Kura says, the fact that there is not enough media coverage or awareness of these motherfuckers attacking the park in Pakistan is disgusting. I agree. All right. So let's go ahead and do some of our stories today. Easter weekend was a little dramatic for some families living in Connecticut, especially those who attempted the Pez egg hunt, the third annual Pez egg hunt, which apparently got pretty violent. Now, they have this massive egg hunt where they hide thousands of eggs, and they have different groups of kids with different ages doing the egg hunt. Well, apparently some parents became a little overzealous, didn't follow the rules, and then chaos ensued. According to NBC, staff had laid out nearly 10,000 eggs over 3 fields at the Pez Visitor Center and planned 3 start times for different age groups, but some parents ignored that plan, rushing the fields early, trampling signs, and shoving other participants. One woman said an adult injured her grandchild's nose. Jeez. All right, so let's stop right there.
It should have gotten out of the way. That's my egg.
Nothing sounds worse to me than knowing that I'm going to go to an event that has thousands of people there and wanting to put myself into that position, right? I'm not blaming...
Like Coachella.
Okay, Coachella's a little different because you're on drugs, right?
Oh, that's true,
so,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know, maybe some of these parents were on drugs too. I have no idea. But, look, I get it. You want your kids to enjoy the Easter egg hunt. We had an Easter egg hunt for not my kids, but, kids in our family. It was in a backyard. It was calm. It was peaceful. It was nice.
Yeah.
That's what you should aim for, right?
It's entirely possible. Look, this was in Orange, Connecticut, which I used to go to a Quiznos and a Krispy Kreme in Orange. I love Orange. It has an IKEA. It's not a particularly urban area, but it is still possible that this was set up because a lot of people live in apartments and they don't have yards, I guess.
I understand.
Man, I don't know if this is the solution. And the thing is, you can look at it and say they had 3 different start times for different fields for different age groups. Okay, so they miscommunicated and so everybody went to the first one. But once you are stiff-arming a toddler, you're wrong regardless of communication issues. When you've trampled signs, nobody's a good guy here.
So Sean Peterson...
It's eggs.
It's eggs, yes. filled with candy, possibly coins or something. But Sean Peterson, who's the general manager of the Pez Visitor Center in Connecticut, said that this year the parents took over, flooding the kids-only fields and going on to the next hunt well before the designated start times. The signs on each field were taken or trampled on. One father who commented on Facebook said his 5-year-old was nearly trampled by other adults despite the presence of no adult signs. What's happening with these parents? Here's the thing. If I were in that situation, I'm taking my kids, I'm getting out of there, right? It's obviously a safety concern. There's nothing that could be in those eggs that would be worth my child getting hurt. There's nothing in those eggs that would be worth me hurting another child so my child could get those eggs. Like, what's happening right now? The fact that this is even a news story is insane to me.
I mean, you can there's almost nothing I hate more than Black Friday and people willing to trample. And, remember, a person died a couple of years ago, Black Friday, because they have to get that crappy TV that's marked down to $20. Mm-hmm. But at least that's a TV. I mean, this is an egg, and there are kids present. In the Black Friday tramplings, generally there are a lot of children. Orange is not filled up with crazy people. This is not the Bayou or something. This is in Florida. I mean, I'm not insulting all people who live in bayous, just Florida. These are supposed to be rational people. And this is one of two stories that we have on the rundown today that, as much as doing first-hour stories makes you realize that people are, killers and manipulative and they rig the system, that makes you hate humanity for that reason. Just regular people being awful, it makes you want to check out of this species.
Well, look, to be fair to all these people who got violent over an Easter egg hunt, nothing celebrates the resurrection of Jesus Christ like hurting your fellow man over plastic eggs stuffed with cheap candy.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Empathy. We need empathy. I think that's the biggest issue in our country right now. If everyone had a little more empathy, we wouldn't have the current political climate that we're dealing with right now, and we certainly wouldn't have stories like this.
Yeah. We also need, as a country, to have more introverts, because my kid wouldn't have gotten trampled because the eggs would be hidden around the kitchen and the couch. We're not going outside.
Yeah, that's a good point.
There's people out there.
You're hilarious. All right, let's move on to some political news. North Carolina has been sued for its anti-LGBT law that was recently passed during a special session and signed by the governor. Now, 3 individuals and 2 LGBT organizations have decided to sue, and early Monday morning they filed a lawsuit in federal court challenging the recently passed North Carolina law that nullified local LGBT rights ordinances. Let's go to the next graphic. Sorry, I lost mine. Ordinances by singling out LGBT people for disfavored treatment and explicitly writing discrimination against transgender people into state law. HB 2 violates the most basic guarantees of equal treatment and the U.S. Constitution. So that's what the lawsuit says. I think that this lawsuit makes all the sense in the world, and for those who might have missed our initial report on this story, essentially what happened is Charlotte had decided to pass certain protections for transgender individuals living in that municipality. They wanted to ensure that people could use the restrooms that they identified with. But state lawmakers got involved and decided, no. We want to call a special session, spend $42,000 a day to make sure that Charlotte cannot do that, to make sure that they can't offer protections for groups that have not been specified in state law. Yeah. So that's exactly what this is about. We'll see how the lawsuit goes, but I think that they have a pretty good case.
It's pretty ironic, by the way that they're trying to fight back is to say you can't protect anyone who's not already protected, when many of those same Republicans hate that those groups are protected. Like, they're using a law that they would love to overturn in a lot of cases to stop new people from being protected. And, I mean, at the time you talked about how this is like the most anti-trans law that's passed. The level of fear of people that you're never, if Charlotte's law became nationwide, you're probably never going to even know that you shared a bathroom with someone that was trans. It will never affect your life.
So I never really thought about this, or at least thought about it in this context. But let's say you're dealing with a trans woman, right? Or a trans man, I should say. So someone who was born a woman but now identifies as a man and looks like a man, okay? So that person now has to use the restroom based on what's on the birth certificate.
Biological.
Right. So if I'm a woman in a woman's bathroom and then all of a sudden someone comes in and this person appears to be a man, wouldn't that make people feel uncomfortable, or I mean, it wouldn't make me feel that uncomfortable, to be honest with you, but wouldn't that like pose some concerns for some people?
Yeah.
Like, it's really interesting how they've decided that what you've been born as is more important than what you identify as or what you look like.
Yeah, and look, all of this could be avoided theoretically if we switched over to unisex bathrooms.
Thank you.
I would not be pushing for that absent all. This isn't an issue that I had to think about growing up. It's sort of thrust on you when Republicans in a knee-jerk way say, no, we need to be protected from these people. But I don't even know how this came up to them. And look, unisex bathrooms exist in a lot of places.
They do.
It apparently works. Apparently that doesn't make people uncomfortable.
But that's the thing. Okay, so unisex bathrooms do exist. There are unisex bathrooms at YouTube Space LA. Like, that's always
true.
That's always the example that comes to mind whenever we have these discussions. And I mean, I've been in those bathrooms several times. I've never seen any hanky-panky or uncomfortable.
You've never just stood ogling someone as they're peeing?
It just doesn't work that way, right? And so this whole idea of making the transgender community out to be these predators who are lying about their identity just so they can use the wrong bathroom is ridiculous. And the fact that they wasted taxpayer money to call a special session in order to ensure that people can continue to discriminate against the LGBT community is ludicrous.
Yeah, and look, I think that at the end of the day, while some of these Republicans, I'm hesitant to say that they're not actually as scared of something as they say, because these are people who are very scared of a lot of things. This is not primarily about bathrooms. This is about enshrining into the law as much restriction on this group as you can while you still can. Because I think that they're picking up that as they lose more and more of their anti-gay laws, and as those get struck down as unconstitutional, as society embraces the LGBT community, they know that they're going to lose in the long run, and so you got to get stuff into the law now to try to hold out as long as you can. And it's a sad final legacy for a lot of these politicians.
It absolutely is. Well, let's move on to another state where there's a little bit of good news for the LGBT community. If there's one thing that definitely poses a competition for a politician's principles, it would be big business. And that's certainly the case in Georgia, where lawmakers recently passed an anti-LGBT law that would, of course, allow people to discriminate against gay individuals, particularly businesses that don't agree with the gay lifestyle. But they have decided that not only are they going to do that, they're going to... Let me start this again. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought as I was talking.
I thought you were doing fine.
I was doing fine until I forgot what my next sentence is going to be. That's okay. No prompter, guys. Give us a break. Come on, give me a break. Give me a break.
No, the funny thing is that's all actually been on the prompter. You did a great job of reading that script.
Sometimes,
why do we go to these lengths?
Does that ever happen to you when you're like, you're presenting a story and then you lose your train of thought and then you try to stall by saying nonsense?
Yeah.
And then usually I'll get it in time to continue, but this time it didn't happen. Anyway, all right. Georgia's governor has vetoed a religious freedom law, or in other words, an anti-LGBT law, because of the fact that a number of big Hollywood studios have decided to no longer do business in the state if they decide to discriminate against gay people. Now, it's known as HB 757, and according to the governor of Georgia, it does not reflect the character of our state and the character of our people. Now, I'm sure Nathan Deal cares a lot about the character of the people in Georgia, but what this really has to do about is Disney threatening to pull their business out of the state, AMC Networks threatening to do the same, and also the NFL saying that they would refuse to host a Super Bowl in the state. Once the state stands to lose a lot of money because of their discriminatory practices, well, all of a sudden the governor steps in and decides to veto the bill.
There's nothing more exciting in politics for me than having someone be forced to choose between two things that ideologically they say they're in support of.
Yeah.
And like we know that there has been this weird, bizarre, we just accept it, this marriage of big business and super right-wing Christianity, that a party should have both of these. Just seems natural because we're used to it, but it doesn't actually make sense, and historically it hasn't been the case for very long in America, to force them to choose between their earthly concerns and their eternal spiritual concerns, and like, oh, well, we don't like gays, but like, I'd rather give birth.
That's exactly right.
like that.
I mean, what's interesting is when it comes to the gay community, one of the most successful strategies has been how bad it is for business, or how bad it is for a state in terms of losing business if they decide to be discriminatory toward the LGBT community, right? Like it's worked with amusement parks that have hosted things like I don't know what it's called exactly, but I know that Disneyland and Disney World have a special period of time where they celebrate the gay community. And there used to be right-wingers that were very much against that, but in the end it didn't matter because Disney knew that it was good for business to be friendly to the gay community. And I hate that it has to come down to money, but if it leads to more equality, then I'm all for it.
Yeah. Well, it makes you wonder, like, theoretically, if we could just get enough different movie studios to set up small franchises so they'd have a bit of sway, or get them to maybe communicate and coordinate a little bit in opposing other sorts of laws, they might have a lot of clout. The dangerous thing, of course, is then I begin to think, well, what if right-wing businesses started to do this? But I don't think that, like, Papa John's is going to pull out of California anytime soon, or like John Deere just shut down one of their factories. I don't even know if the right
Papa
wing.
John's even afford to pull out of a state?
I don't know.
I don't know how well.
So maybe it's not a justified fear. And generally, we're against businesses using their muscle to force politicians to go one way or another. I mean, what we want the guy in Georgia, the governor, to veto it because he knows the people would oust him in either a recall or in his re-election attempt. That's the most pure form. And we'll sort of take this because we like the outcome. But I don't really want the NFL determining social policy in America.
Look, I don't want that either, and you make a good point. But unfortunately, right now, we have a country of so-called leaders that don't lead, right? A leader does the right thing, okay, regardless of what the constituents say in some cases. Because you might be a leader, you might be a politician in a very right-wing state that wants to continue segregating or wants to continue discriminating against the LGBT community. And it's up to you as a leader to determine that that's wrong and you shouldn't do that. But unfortunately, we don't have a country of leaders. We have a country of ideologues. Did I say that right?
Ideologues.
Ideologues. There we go. We have a country of ideologues. We have a country of people who are, of course, corrupted by financial interests. And in this case, I mean, in some way, he is influenced by financial interests. But it's working in our favor. And the gay community's favor. So that's good news. All right, let's take a break. Tweet to us using the hashtag TYT Live. When we come back, we have an insane video of a Uber driver getting abused. You have to watch this. It's just very devastating. Come right back.
Strip away the gold, the ornaments, knock down the statues and the pillars, and this is what remains.
If Melisandre brings him back to life and he owes her one, they should have sex immediately.
I wish you good fortune in the wars to come.
So he turns out he'll learn that he's Rhaegar and Lyanna's kid, and that he is the just heir to the Seven Kingdoms. So they'll be like, I took a vow.
Those boys, they were grabbing It's like what, the candle maker's daughter or something?
The kennel master.
Oh, the kennel mat. I thought they kept saying
kennel
kennel mat.
I love Varys. If they kill Varys, I'm going to lose my mind. Is that Valerian there too?
It would, I believe, be the old Gistari or possibly the Armies.
It could be almost crazy.
You're not leaving. The outrage over here, the sunrise. She's trying to build him up.
Mayweather will knock out Pacquiao. Floyd beats his wife.
Hi guys, welcome back to TYT. A few TYT lives for you. A lot of people are calling me out on my slip-ups, okay, holding me accountable for my flaws, which is totally okay. No, I'm definitely having some slip-ups today. It's all right. Everyone has their days. No, I did not smoke weed before work. I do not smoke weed before work. I only smoke weed after work.
Jimmy's car with him for a little bit.
No, I don't understand people who can function in public after they smoke marijuana. I know that it impacts people differently, and I know you're going to tell me, oh no, this strain is better than that strain, yada yada. It doesn't matter. It impacts me the same, whether it's an indica or sativa.
I got in an argument with my friend about the different strains, and he thinks that it has such specific different effects.
No.
Influences these characteristics and attributes, and I was like, yeah.
The only thing that I notice is sativas, which are supposed to be a little more, like, it makes you a little more active. Indicas make you, like, melt in the couch. Sativas sometimes make me overanalyze, which is not a good feeling. Like, that's the last thing I want to do. But they
towards that anyway.
But they all make me uncomfortable in public, so I wouldn't do it at work. Anyway, let's see. A few TYT lives that I like. Chris says, I don't use the voice recognition on my phone, but it wakes up when Anna Kasparian is talking, which is interesting. Also, Vincent says, choosing between values and money, Republicans will choose money every time. That's true, but I think you can say the same about a lot of Democratic lawmakers as well, especially with how corrupt our system has gotten. Also, let's see, Adam Alexander says, never read anything on Raw Story, but looking forward to Anna's story today.
No, Raw Story was good even before, now it's improved.
Yeah, I like Raw Story a lot. Also, Chris Bradshaw says that Easter egg hunt was very poorly executed.
Was that not our master?
Low expectations.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Okay, good job, good addition then.
Oh, and then finally, I'm sorry, I lost the tweet, but one person pointed out that the day, or the days that Disney celebrates gay people are referred to as gay days. I remembered that, but I wasn't 100% sure. So
you didn't want to say that? There's certain things you don't want to guess.
Yeah, exactly. I'm
it's like a gay day or something, I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Alright, anyway, if you are not a member, you should be one. We're going to have an awesome post-game show for our members today, where we're going to talk about some super personal stuff, including our trips. Okay, we haven't discussed our trips in a public forum, so we're going to do that. It'll be fun. All right, guys, let's do it. Students from the University of Michigan were caught on film speaking poorly to an Uber driver. And when I say speaking poorly, I am not giving enough credit to how hideous and horrendous this rant was. Now, this was all over an Uber driver not wanting to take these particular passengers on the ride. The Uber driver claims that he didn't want to do it because he had given them rides before and they harassed him and made him uncomfortable, so he wanted to cancel the trip. Since he wanted to cancel the trip, it led to the exchange you're about to see now. Take a look.
Let's go. Hold on. Let's see you. You're canceling us again. Why? For what? They don't give a shit about you. They don't give two fucks. There's 50 of you. And there's one of me here who spends the most money here, you little fuck. Yeah, fuck you, Arthur, you little faggot fuck. You want to kick me off? Kick me off, you little piece of shit. You're an Uber driver. Go fucking drive, you little fuck. Minimum wage faggot. Go fuck yourself. See you later. Go pick up another fuck. You're working all day. Guess what? I'm going to sit on my ass and watch TV. Fuck you.
Wow. Okay.
This is why I don't leave my house on most days. People like that are all too common. Jeez, he's so happy with himself.
He feels so good about himself, berating someone and making fun of what his income is. Yeah. That's what makes you a classy person, by attacking his income?
There's a joke in Jimmy Dore's Hulu special. He's like, the minimum wage workers, yeah, they need to be taken down a peg. Like, first of all, they don't make minimum wage, but yeah, it's not a super high-paying job. So, like, you are going to sit around? So, like, are you bragging that you don't have a job or that you don't need to have a job because your parents pay for you to go to school? Like, what ridiculous privilege is leading to this stupid enthusiasm?
So, the Uber driver that he was attacking is Arthur Zawada. And again, he claims that he had dealt with him in the past and that he was such a terrible passenger that he just didn't want to pick him up again. Let me give you his quote. This is graphic number 10A. I already told him I would never take him again. He knew that, but he didn't cancel the trip. I pulled in. I didn't even say anything to the guy, and that happened. So I pulled out my cell phone and recorded him. He should have just canceled before I came over. They were looking for trouble. They were hoping I would lose my cool. But he didn't lose his cool. So, campus newspapers and BuzzFeed did a really good job in investigating the story and kind of figuring out who this student is. And here's what they found out. Campus newspaper, the Michigan Review, identified the man in the video wearing the black coat as Jake Croman. Now, as I give you more details about him, the story becomes even more frustrating. Croman is the son of a wealthy New York City real estate developer, Stephen Croman, and works as an associate at his father's company.
This guy's going to be running for president in 24 years as an asshole.
And middle-class and working-class people are going to applaud him as someone who's going to make America great again.
Sad thing is that his father, I have no idea, I've done absolutely zero research, probably built that company from scratch so that his kid would have it easier, but his kid has it a bit too easy. And now he's a douchebag who was handed a job and thinks that everything in the world is owed to him. So fuck this guy who has to drive for a living, has to pick up people. It's a service that this guy actively wants to use, but hates the people who have to work to provide that service.
So there have been, a number of studies that we've talked about on the show regarding what wealth and power does to you as a person, right? And it's actually very depressing because even if you're a very humble, good-natured individual, money does something to you. When you become wealthy, you have this sense of entitlement that makes you think that you're more worthy than anyone making less money than you. And it's disgusting behavior. I hate it. I hate watching people tear each other down like that, especially because when you're punching down, when you're attacking the powerless, you look like the biggest asshole on the planet, right?
He doesn't even know it. He was filming that too. As he's yelling faggot. He thinks that what he's doing is cool. He wants his friends to see it.
Well, his friends are behind him smiling.
Ashamed. I know, that's the thing that pisses me off the most. So I did political psychology in graduate school. I wish that I'd done regular psychology my whole life so that I could start to understand why people are the assholes they are. If a friend of mine did anything like that, that's it. We're not friends anymore. I have no interest in being around a person that would do that, let alone maybe if the guy just flips out for a justified reason and says some stuff that I don't like. But that guy thinks he's putting on a show. He's so happy. Fuck that guy. I'd never talk to him again.
Because again, he thinks that he's more worthy or he's a better person simply because he comes from money. Simply because he has a certain amount of resources that this Uber driver doesn't have. That he didn't earn. Exactly. He's a college student. He's a frat. He's part of a frat, I should say. All right, so Jake Croman did speak to the press to defend himself. But before you make any judgments, let me give you the full story. He says, this video shows one side of an argument I had with an Uber driver who 2 weeks ago, after he refused to pick me up on the basis of my religion. What you don't see in the video is that the driver had made a number of offensive anti-Semitic remarks that provoked my response. I am not proud of my reaction to this discrimination or to his discrimination, and I regret my choice of words. Shortly after the verbal altercation, I filed a complaint with the Ann Arbor Police Department, and they are now dealing with the issue. Well, BuzzFeed looked into that to see exactly what the complaint said, and they found that an Ann Arbor police spokeswoman or spokesperson subsequently told BuzzFeed News they could not locate his name in the reporting system, meaning that he didn't report anything.
And look, the reason that he turns to that is that it's not impossible. Theoretically, the guy could have said something anti-Semitic. It seems weird that the guy would say that, and then he would willingly record the target of his anti-Semitic comment, who mysteriously doesn't mention anything like that during his rant, who seems happy. His group doesn't say anything about it.
And they both have phones.
If you're being victimized, you don't then start throwing out faggot at the person, okay? You then say, fuck you, how dare you say that to me, say the word, I'm going to talk to Uber. He doesn't do anything like that. He just acts like a little prick to the guy. So, he's just an entitled asshole.
He is an entitled asshole.
The country, and especially universities and a lot of frats, are just fuck with him, man. And it pisses me off so much that this is what our country is full of.
So, I guess a question that I want to ask you, and the audience, to be honest, is how do you change the political climate that we have now in our political system when this is the kind of stuff that we're dealing with, right? Like, we have a system that's screwing us on a daily basis. We have media that's misinforming us on a daily basis. And at the same time, it's an uphill battle. Like, we go out of our way to cover the stories that aren't being covered, to inform the public, to make sure that we're giving them all the information they need to be responsible, informed political activists. But why? Like, I know I'm being like a downer right now, but are these the people that we're talking to? I know we have a huge.
Maybe
I know. Well, look, we have a huge audience of insanely intelligent people who care about changing the system, who want to make a difference. But at the same time, when you look at the grand scheme of things, and when you look at how many people are in this country, how many people are uninformed, apathetic, do not care, straight up stupid, okay? There are a lot of people out there who just don't want to be informed on the issues. What are we doing? Are we going to change the system? When we're having, like, conversations about Bernie Sanders and his tone, or Bernie Sanders and whether or not his supporters are sexist or Bernie bros, when we're having all these distractions constantly that take away from us trying to make a difference, are we actually going to succeed in making a difference?
Yeah, look, I hope that I obviously take anecdotes like this, and it makes me hate humanity to a large extent, but I assume that there are not that many wealthy sons of real estate developers. There's probably not millions of them in the country. And so the idea is that while this guy is in many ways the enemy ideologically, like, you think this guy is going to, like, solve, like, the problems between men and women? He's going to help bridge the racial divide? He's going to solve the economic inequalities we have in the system? He's firmly on the other side of all that, I'm sure. But we hope that he's outnumbered by smarter people. And I think that we're playing a long game of setting up the next generation to be slightly better, and then the next generation to be slightly better, slightly more open-minded, slightly more tolerant. I mean, this guy has to apologize for throwing the F word around. 50 years ago, he wouldn't have to.
For it.
So we are making progress that this sort of guy, I think everybody outside of maybe some fratty websites who are going to enthusiastically say that this is the bro of the week or something, are going to look at this guy and say, no, he's obviously an asshole. And it takes a lot of social progress to get to the point where that guy is obviously an asshole to everyone other than himself and his social group. Hopefully even his father watches that video and is like, oh God, this is the guy I'm leaving all my money to.
Yeah, and look, you're right. There aren't a lot of people out there who will inherit the kind of wealth that he's going to inherit and aren't part of a wealthy family. But there are a lot of people out there who think they are.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, there are a lot of people
let's quit.
who are like, no, I don't want to quit. Just understand what I'm saying. Like, I have my days of discouragement, and this is one of those days,
I know.
right? And you see these stories, and it's so depressing to know that people like that exist, but they exist, and there's a lot of them out there. Anyway, all right. Tens of thousands of people die from prescription drug overdoses, specifically prescription drugs that are classified as painkillers. So as a result, there are new attempts to regulate the prescription industry to ensure that people are not overprescribed these drugs. Now, how does that happen? Well, there are certain groups that are advocating for doctors to check certain databases before prescribing painkillers. But doctors are fighting back against it because they feel that it would lead to a lot of wasted time, possibly a lot of waste. So let's get into that a little bit. Now, the Obama administration is asking doctors to log into pill tracking databases before prescribing painkillers and other high-risk drugs. A new report from a nonprofit organization known as Shatterproof lays out key recommendations to improve prescription monitoring systems, which are currently used in 49 states. Now, understand that these monitoring systems, again, are in most of our states, but the only issue is there aren't requirements by doctors to use them. So if the majority of doctors in the country aren't required to use them, are they going to use them? No, probably not.
They won't self-regulate?
Exactly. And look, I don't blame them. It's an extra step in your job that you don't necessarily need to do. There's no one telling you you have to do it, so why would you do it?
Yeah.
Now, the reason why we want them to start doing that is because with these databases, you can kind of figure out whether or not there are trends or patterns of abuse with a particular patient. Maybe there's someone who's doctor shopping to ensure that he or she gets, a bunch of prescriptions for the same drug so they can sell it on the black market.
Yeah.
These are big issues that we're coping with in the country right now, and we're looking for solutions. So the systems collect data on prescriptions for high-risk drugs that can be viewed by doctors and government officials to spot suspicious patterns. The aim is to stop doctor shopping, where patients rack up multiple prescriptions from different doctors, either to satisfy their own drug addiction or to sell on the black market. But in most states, doctors are not required to check the databases before writing prescriptions.
Yeah.
So the doctors are worried that, the current systems that we have in place are not good enough. They're not updated in real time, and so as a result, it'll take them a long time to log in. It'll take them a while to get updated information about a patient, which I think are all very, legitimate concerns, and those concerns should be improved. But I think it makes all the sense in the world to make sure that a patient is not, abusing the drugs that are being prescribed to them.
Yeah, I mean, imagine all else being equal, the doctors would obviously like to help people, and you would assume that they would understand the problem far better than anyone, including you or I would. They actually see it, they know what these drugs do, theoretically, but they also have a ton of pressure put on them by drug manufacturers to sell as much as possible, and so generally, if you make it harder to prescribe anything, they're going to be opposed to that because they have an incentive to sell it. Yep. And when you add in personal inconvenience on a daily basis, well, and for a lot of people, I think that some of the general philosophy or empathy is going to go away because your job becomes harder to do and nobody wants that. And I know that I personally, looking at this, look, I shouldn't be in charge of exactly what the reporting characteristics should be, but I assume that the group that set it up knows what they're doing. Mm-hmm. To say that it should be harder to get these drugs might seem hypocritical coming from me personally, who I say weed should be totally legal. And I haven't fully thought it through, but I think generally almost every drug should be accessible if you want to use it, because I think that people should be able to fuck up their body if they want to. Like I've always said, the example is if I really wanted to harm myself, I could go buy a gallon of bleach and I could drink the entire thing, and that's not illegal right now. But at the same time, the important added-on thing to that is information about what you're doing. Nobody takes cocaine and thinks, oh, well, I'm doing this for my knees. Yeah. Like, nobody takes bath salts and says, well, oh, come on, I've got a bad back. But a lot of people will look at this and say these people want to get addicted or they're drug addicts. But a lot of them become addicted when they don't want to be.
That's exactly right. I think you bring up a really good point. We have this unhealthy perception in the country where illegal narcotics are considered harmful and we should stay away from them, which many of them are, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we think that prescription drugs, since they're legal and regulated, are safe and they're fair game, and if you're prescribed, you should take the whole prescription and everything's fine. But it's important for everyone to be informed about all of the risks associated with the drugs that they're taking. I know people personally who got an injury at work, got prescribed OxyContin, and got extremely addicted to the point where this person was stealing from his family in order to pay for his addiction. It was serious. And he was an honest, hardworking person, didn't have a criminal record, never took drugs before in his life, had no issues. And he didn't know that he had an addictive personality and he was going to take these painkillers and it was going to take over his entire life. And so, yes, you have to be really careful with these drugs. You can't have this perception that, hey, it's just a prescription drug, it's going to be fine. It could cause some real damage to your body.
Yeah, it's amazing how addictive they are and how deadly they are. Like, the difference between a normal dose and the dose necessary to kill you with some of these prescription painkillers is not that significant, whereas for something like weed, which we've been told for half a century is the most dangerous thing in the world, it's almost literally impossible to consume enough to actually kill you. Yeah. You would almost need to light yourself on fire with using weed as the kindling to actually die as a result of it. And yet if you ask most people, they would say, oh, those are medicine, and weed is a drug. But people who take illegal drugs at least know what they're doing. They know that they're just trying to feel good. If we had all the information about these legal medicines, then I would be much more comfortable with them being as accessible as they are. Like, I know in Florida it's incredibly easy. And looking at some of these numbers in terms of the states that have complied with these results, that they say that Kentucky, the deaths went down by 25% in 1 year. And
after
so
they started checking the databases,
exactly. And so that's, at the very least, being super conservative, hundreds of people who did not become addicted unwillingly and then die as a result of their addiction. And that's amazing, and it could be much larger if you expanded it around the country.
Yes.
And not just people who die, it's people who go broke as a result of it, people who go to jail as a result of it, people's families are ruined as a result of it. Like, if we want to have some kind of war on drugs, which I don't necessarily think is necessary, this is the sort of front we should be fighting on.
Yes, absolutely. And I should note that prescription painkillers have led to such a serious epidemic that misuse and abuse has increased fourfold since 1999 to more than 29,000 deaths in 2014. 29,000 people died from opioid overdoses in 1 year alone.
How high have the profits risen for some of those companies? Well, probably been pretty good.
Of course. Yeah. Of course. All right, we're going to take one more break. When we come back, some good news for those looking for a bump up in minimum wage.
Nerds rule the world. Nerds rule the world. Nerds rule the world. Nerds rule the world. Welcome to the nerd life.
Welcome to Nerd Alert, everyone. We have an exciting show for you this week.
Glad to communicate with all the nerds out there.
What's beautiful about geeks is geeks are open to everybody. That's the thing. It's like, so you got your thing, I got my thing. It's like, and if you're not, then you're a bad geek.
Why did you choose Battlestar Galactica? Because it's awesome? No kidding. The floor is not lava. Yucky!
Ah, my nightmare! And there's one very special characteristic that many men have been interested in. Penis eyes. What's up, friend?
Yeah, I know that curve.
And that movie is the Valentine's Day romantic classic, Deadpool. Who should we trust here? Our hearts? Our heads?
Yes.
J.J. Abrams? Isn't that right? How can you improve pizza? With math, of course.
If we spilled goldfish crackers on the floor and we didn't want to clean them up, so we thought that if we stomped on them an infinite amount of times, they would mathematically cease to exist.
We are ready for a Wonder Woman movie. Oh, wait, no, let me correct myself. We were ready for a Wonder Woman movie years ago.
I love my job.
Hey everybody, welcome back to TYT. Using the hashtag TYT Live to communicate to us via Twitter is a good idea because we read those tweets and then we come back and we respond to them, and we're going to do that right now. Alright,
That's so weird.
I'm in a weird mood today.
Yeah,
Seth Iser says that video referring to the student going off on the Uber driver, that video just proves that we're absolutely dehumanized every aspect of humanity and get off on cruelty. It's sad.
Well, and it's a direct example of we are raised to think people who are rich, they got it because they're better,
Yeah.
because they're harder working. So the necessary correlate to that is that anyone who's not doing well, who's working in a lower position, they are bad people. They're lazy people. They're stupid people.
Yep.
And that guy, he obviously believes that with every fiber of his being. That Uber guy has to be human shit because he's driving a car for a living.
Some of the hardest working people in this country, like educated people, get paid the least, right? Like, my favorite example is social workers. Social workers deal with the worst situations imaginable, and their pay is, I mean, they're lucky if they get $40,000 after getting their master's degree. $40,000 a year, right?
California.
In California, which is not a lot, okay? Considering the cost of living here, believe me, your wealth does not determine whether or not you are worthy or a good person or whether or not you've earned it.
Yeah.
All right, a few more. Nate Sanchez says, so it's a young Trump. Go figure. We said that too. Adrian Gibbs says, I feel like I'm much more knowledgeable since I started watching The Young Turks 6 years ago. You guys are awesome. Keep it up. Thank you. And Connor Mason says, I don't think I've ever agreed with John Idarola. Make them all legal. Drug war over. End of story.
He's never agreed.
Oh, he's never agreed more with you.
Okay, I was like, man,
Sorry.
this whole time I've never once accidentally said something you approve of.
All right. Convenient word I left out there.
Thank you. Yeah. He said hi once, and I was like, no, I don't think so.
All right, guys. If you are a member, you're going to get a great post-game show today. If you're not a member, you can join by going to tytnetwork.com/join. All right, let's talk about dog poop. One luxury apartment complex in Chicago is so frustrated with people refusing to curb their dogs that they have decided to use DNA evidence to determine who the offenders are and bring them to justice. Now, apparently, this luxury apartment has now asked all of its tenants to swab the saliva of their pets so they can include it in a database and then later test dog poop left on the premises to see whose DNA matches to that poop. Okay. Back in the day, they used to do this crazy thing called surveillance cameras, where they would just put a camera up and then find out whether or not someone did something wrong in that area. But now they've decided, no, we're going to go ahead and do DNA testing.
Yeah. Big Brother's in your DNA now.
Jeez, this is pretty insane.
I don't know. I think that there's a good chance that this is going to piss off the people that live there. So I would, just in case, I would swap the cheeks of the people too, because this would drive me to do a spite poop and pass it off as a dog.
Oh my God.
I'm kidding. And here's the thing. So when you suggested this story, I went and did research to figure out, like, well, come on, how much does it cost to actually test? They would never actually do this.
Tell me.
Well, we live in an amazing world where technology becomes cheaper and cheaper with every passing year. It is now very possible that they could actually DNA test the poop for something like $60. There are multiple companies that just do this specifically for the situation, which is amazing.
Wait, specifically for dog poop?
Dog poop surveillance. There's multiple websites where you can send in the poop.
Wow.
We live in an amazing world. And look, some people apparently have been, they can fine you $50, $100, and one person, apparently their dog just went on a spree, just pooping everywhere, and they had to pay over $500.
Have you?
Because they didn't want to, like, lean over. That's crazy.
Have you ever left your dog's poop behind? You have.
Many times. I don't anymore. There was a time. No, because it's very context dependent. If you live in a luxury apartment and you have like a 3x3 grass strip and that's all you have, then you're an asshole if you leave poop there.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm out in some wild area,
what kind of wild area has introvert?
on minimum wage as their first job because maybe they can think back and think, well, I did do a summer at an ice cream scooping place, and they think that's what it is.
Yeah, they don't realize how many people have families and rely on their minimum wage jobs to make ends meet.
Yeah.
And so once you take that into account, it's crazy to think that $15 an hour is enough. It's just not enough. It's not enough now. It's even more worthless. Well, not worthless, but it's even more, it makes less of an impact years from now.
It's not worthless, but it is worth less.
It's worth less.
Yes. And by the way, I feel, I wish Jimmy was here to add on to this, but we do have to note that this means that California has gone too far for Hillary Clinton. She thinks $15 an hour is crazy pants. They should have restricted it to 12.
Okay, so let's discuss that for a second. First of all, of course, I disagree with Hillary. $12 an hour, it depends on where you live in the country, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you living in, like, a rural part of Vermont? Well, then $12 an hour might be okay. Are you living in a big city? $12 an hour is certainly not enough.
Definitely.
And that's part of the problem with the federal minimum wage. I like that it guarantees some protections for workers, but at the same time, to have a one-size-fits-all policy doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Now, I want a federal minimum wage. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying, but we live in a country where a one-size-fits-all policy just simply won't work.
Yeah.
$12 an hour, not even close to enough if you're living in Los Angeles or New York. $12 an hour might be enough in other places, but let's keep it real.
Yeah, I mean, look, it obviously should be on like a, I don't know exactly how to break it down, a city-by-city level, a county, a zip code, I don't know. But I imagine that if businesses operate as slowly as this current bill tells me they do, that they need up to 7 years to figure this out, there is absolutely no way the businesses of America are ready to, on a like neighborhood-by-neighborhood level, figure out how much to pay people, unfortunately.
Which is why that federal protection is in place.
Yeah, it's a bare minimum beyond which we think it would be unsafe to let people drop, and which probably half of the politicians of this country think shouldn't exist at all.
I just got really angry thinking about Hillary Clinton and her $1 million net worth telling us that $12 an hour is enough.
Millions and millions and millions.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, look, best case scenario, she is doing the opposite of what she says she will do, which is be a leader. She's simply saying, well, I would love $15 an hour, but it's just not going to happen. So I'll say 12, and she'll do what Barack Obama does, which is concede a ton before the negotiations have even begun. Which, in the real world, she'll go and say 12, and we'll hopefully get 1075. And that's what she doesn't seem to understand. But her stated position is that 15 is too much.
All right, guys, that does it for today's show. If you're a member, check out our members-only post-game show. We will be doing it in just a few minutes. And for everyone else, if you're not a member, you can join by going to tytnetwork.com/join. Love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.